November 23rd, 2021. So, you can see that I'm in this hospital room, right? Fascinating. Very interesting, actually, because I was already ready to leave. I was waiting for my ride, and just outside the door, and they tried to pull me back into the building after I had already voiced my concerns. First and foremost, I'm a computer programmer and a hacker, if you will. But I'm a good guy, right? White hat. The first offense that this place did was at my first visit several months ago. Back when paperwork was made out of paperwork. Paper. Fascinating. So, I go to fill out the form and it asks all kinds of questions, as paperwork tends to do. And one of those questions is, what are your mental illnesses? So I put down autism, right? Asperger's. And the lady gleams over a receptionist, one of two, manning each individual phone, of which there are two. And she says, you can't have autism, quit lying. If you had autism, you need somebody to fill out the paperwork for you. And not only is that rude, but it's entirely inaccurate. Asperger's is a high-functioning form of autism. Read a book. Of course, that's not what I say back to the person. But anyway, the other receptionist, a male, a gentleman if he were, as enlightened in the following seconds, pulls me aside and tries to talk to me. He's very low in his voice, and he says, look, man, I just started here working a week ago, and I already want to quit. But I can assure you that the treatment you get from the receptionist is not the treatment you're going to get from the doctors. I was really glad he said that because I was ready to leave. I don't care. You know, this is the healthcare preview I'm getting of what's going to happen next. Alrighty then. So now we fast forward several months, and it's COVID times or whatever, you know, and they want me to fill out paperwork online. Okay, that's strange. I don't know how I feel about putting my personal details through the internet, through a website. Very strange. And this website leads back to their database. Very dangerous. You know, as an IT, as a computer programmer, as a white hat hacker, that's very freaking ignorant. I could pull everybody in this office's information from my phone right now, and I could prove my point. In fact, I'm one of the reasons why some of the local library security is so high, because I pulled out, 2,748, I believe, individual library accounts, full names, birthdays, social security numbers, expirations on the cards, how much money they had on each account. And I showed them, because it was stored in a plain text file that they thought that we couldn't get to, but locally hosted on each computer and copied on each and every computer. Fascinating. So I showed them this. Well, anyway, the point is, this is a huge vulnerability that I'm not willing to participate in. So they give me a link to my cell phone. You got to give them your cell phone number. You're lucky I have one. You're lucky the government passes out these free cell phones at this time during COVID and makes it all possible. So the link takes me to a website, and it's linked to their database. They inform me when I express concern, and I'm supposed to fill out all these personal questions, my social security number, take pictures of my ID, take pictures of my social security card, take pictures of my insurance. That's all very fucking stupid, okay? And it asks me all these questions that are not only irrelevant, whether I have COVID or not, because they can be vaccinated, or whether I have depression or not, because they aren't here to help me with depression. That's not what physical health is about. That's mental health. That's going to be someplace else. So either way, I could comply with this, but even if I did, the form is extremely long. It's lots of irrelevant questions, and it turns out 16 minutes into the form, you heard right, there's a progress meter at the top of the page, and it lets me know I'm only 1/3 of the way through. And I'm told I need to fill this out. It's a requirement. You have to do it every time you go to be seen, which is retarded. After it gets starting to get really stressed over time and seeing how much time I've already spent, I decided to just leave, call for the ride home from Vail, which is a Medicaid taxi service that gets you to and from important doctor's appointments. And while I'm waiting, they decide to, as you can see, pull me inside and say, oh, the doctor's willing to see you. And I said, in great confusion, for intelligent reasoning, well, I thought that I couldn't be seen when I'm filling out this form. I spent 14 minutes on it and then decided this isn't the place for me, so I was ready to leave. I will still have to leave when the cab calls me and says that they're here to say no. And they walked me right on back here. And now I sit equally waiting for who knows what. And a doctor's office. So I'd like to know what you think. This place is Family Medicine Healthcare in Chesapeake, Virginia. I'll post the details. I've already left a Google review saying a smaller version of what I'm telling you now. And I'd like to know what you think. Is this the way that people should be treated in a business of any kind at that? Especially a medical profession? Whether by the receptions or by the doctors or anyone like that. Is this how we should treat clients? These are people coming to you for health concerns, and you're making it as hard as possible. Now, let's say my autism was one of the more harder versions of it, right? Which is difficult enough, but I pedal through. How would you expect someone to sit there and go through all that paperwork on their phone and these confusing questions and such, and when there's no other, and I have no emergency contact, that was one of the issues as well. I don't choose to have friends. There's nobody that I genuinely trust anyway. I have people that I like to a point. I don't have any family members to look out for me. One of those questions, of course, is an emergency contact. Well, guess what? You can't put none. You type that and it knows it's not a phone number, and you have to fill out that field. You can't leave it blank and just click continue or next. So do you think this is bizarre? Do you think this is strange? Do you think this is a block to people getting the help and the health that they need? Do you think this is an appropriate practice? Leave your comments and your suggestions. I'm Kevin Cass, and this shit is very serious, dudes. I'm working on a documentary upcoming. It'll be sometime in the making. This is a very serious, very long project. But the documentary is, it might not be titled this, but there was a YouTube video I made on it called Problems and Solutions with Big Pharma and Interactions with Asperger's. So there's a lot of things, just to give you a couple details that will be included. A lot of things where people could use improvement to be able to actually help a client, not just rush towards the exit. One of those is hearing what the client has to say, not cutting them off in the middle of their speech. Actually hearing the client, treating the person like an individual, not a skin color, not a manic or depressive thing, not anything. Treating the person like, oh, he came in here for a reason. Let me hear what the hell he's here. But what a lot of doctors tend to do is rush towards the exit. Well, this is what statistically worked for someone else that isn't your brain chemistry before I even have the details to compare the two of you as clients. Fascinating. Another thing is over or under prescribing medication. That'll be covered in the documentary. Case in point, Adderall helps over 70% of children who receive it, over 80% of adults. The excuse I'm not giving it out to people? Fear of overprescribing it, right? Well, guess what? We've done studies on that too, and you can't overprescribe it. Turns out it increases your focus, but reduces your memory. It cannot be used as a study aid, which is the common excuse for saying of how people might abuse it. So that's 100% false. Then we have stuff like Ativan, drugs with potential for addiction, because it activates very quickly. Potential for addiction is not a guaranteed for addiction. If this works for someone and has been shown to work for someone in the past, giving them new and experimental medications is not necessarily the right route to go, of which probably have side effects, and for me, did, replacing it with propranolol. So there's lots of little things like that that will definitely be included in the documentary. A big part is the patients and stuff with doctors. They don't hear what the patient is saying. They hear compliance or non-compliance with their pseudo-egos and all of that. You get a title, you get a degree. We've talked about this in other videos, and you're entitled after that. So you didn't get to go to however many years of medical school to not feel like a god, right? So that's one of the problems. A case in point, I was dealing with a doctor. I was in the ER. I was trying to get into the mental hospital, and a young white male doctor comes by. And he says, well, I give all of my patients with ADHD and bipolar Cyprexa and Depakote. I say, well, I'm unfamiliar with Cyprexa. Give me a printout. I'll make an informed decision. And Depakote, I can't take because me and my brother are allergic to it. He claps his hands together and says, well, maybe you'll change your mind. I'll check back on you a little bit. Comes back in roughly 10 minutes and says, well, have you decided to take that Depakote? See, he heard non-compliance. He didn't hear what I actually had to say. And I said, no, at this point you're a little frustrated, right? I'm not willing to take something I'm allergic to. And he says, well, I cannot help you. Clasps his hands together and rushes off. You see, for this doctor, this entitled person, and his fluffed up ego, he went to schooling. He feels special for having learned all of this, which to a point should be okay, but to a point totally isn't. Because he's rushing through the conversation with the client, talking faster than I am right now in mania at light speed, right? Rushing towards a familiar solution to an unfamiliar problem in person. He's rushing toward the exit. Well, I give all of my patients as if everybody has the same brain chemistry. This is why there's so many different drugs. There's also the factor that SSRIs have been proven not to work because people are still prescribing medications in the same way. You can read scientific journals on this. Over 50% of people don't get the help that they need because there is almost no correlation or overlap between stress-related genes and depression-related genes, and that's how they used to treat it. So, for those who do get the help, literally a coin flip, 50-50, those who do get the help, it's because that particular element was imbalanced in their brain, and it just so happened that medicine targeted the right one. This is what's called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Okay, so there's real facts on this, and people don't want to keep up with the science. People want to feel entitled and want to rush through the exit. So that'll be a big topic that'll be discussed in this documentary as well. I'll also have nurses and doctors who are willing to go on the record and want to talk on this, which is great. I thought it would be a lot harder than it turned out to be to get people interested in the project that wouldn't fear losing their jobs and such, being a part of rubbing against the grain in the medical community, you know. So that's what's on my mind today. My name is Kevin Cass. I love you all, and hopefully we can all get the help that we need and change a little bit of what's wrong in these industries. We're all individuals, not all my clients. We're not carbon copy clones, okay? We're all individuals. We're all people. We all deserve respect. That goes for any race, any ethnicity, okay? That goes for any type of mental illness. We need to work on some of these issues if we're really going to change it. If you want to vilify the mental ill person for asking questions, how are you going to fix the mentally ill person? If these type of people are a problem for you, how are you really going to get them to stop being a problem if these are the solutions that we have that are not genuinely solutions? Hope you've enjoyed this short little video. Peace.